All right, today we're diving into one of the biggest, wildest conspiracy theories out there. We're going to separate the Hollywood fiction from the pretty surprising facts about the Illuminati. And trust me, the real story is way stranger than you might think. It's the question, right? Who really runs the world? Is there some secret group, some hidden hand pulling all the strings from behind the scenes? For a whole lot of people, the answer always comes down to one name. You see it everywhere. Jay-Z and Beyoncé throwing up symbols, that all-seeing eye on everything. World banks, Hollywood. It all gets tied back to this one, single, all-powerful shadowy group that's supposedly in charge of it all, the Illuminati. So the modern myth, the story we all hear, is that they're this ancient, super powerful secret society that's been around forever. Starting wars, crashing economies, maybe even picking the next pop star. But what if I told you the truth is, well, it's a lot less exciting? Yeah, you heard that right. This world-dominating, all-powerful group was actually just a book club, basically. A reading group in Bavaria that lasted for about 10 years before it got completely shut down. So, how in the world did a short-lived German club become the biggest conspiracy on the planet? Okay, let's get into the real story. To really get what happened, we've got to go all the way back to the 1700s, to Bavaria, to a professor with a pretty radical idea.
So this is our guy, Adam Weishaupt. He's a law professor, and he's just fed up. Fed up with the absolute power of the monarchy and the Catholic Church. He's living in the age of the Enlightenment, and he's inspired by all these new ideas about reason and science. He basically dreams of a world run by logic, not by old-school religious dogma. And his secret society, that was going to be how he made it happen.
And you know what's wild? When you look at what they actually wanted to do, it was incredibly progressive for the 1700s. I mean, they weren't plotting to take over the world. They were pushing for rational government, for science, for education for everybody. They even talked about having a branch for women. That was completely revolutionary back then.
But this whole revolutionary dream, it was over almost before it began. They started with just 5 guys, and as they grew, the government started getting nervous. The church definitely wasn't a fan. So in less than a decade, the Bavarian government just shut them down, completely. By 1785, the Illuminati were done. Weishaupt was exiled and the whole order was dissolved. Poof, gone.
And at their absolute peak, we're talking maybe 3,000 members, max. Scattered across Europe, sure, they had some big names like the writer Goethe. That's pretty impressive for a secret club, but a global force controlling everything? Not even close. And honestly, that should have been the end of the story.
But it wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. In fact, the myth of the Illuminati started almost the second the real group was destroyed. The legend was basically born from the ashes of the real thing, and it's all thanks to a couple of guys who decided this defunct club was to blame for a massive world event.
Fast forward to 1797. A Scottish professor named John Robison drops this bombshell book claiming the Illuminati secretly survived and, get this, they orchestrated the French Revolution. Now, never mind the fact that the revolution started in 1789, years after the Illuminati were officially disbanded. The idea was just too good, too spicy, to let facts get in the way.
And then this French Jesuit, Augustin Barruel, he just pours gasoline on the fire. He takes Robison's idea and weaves this even bigger, more complex conspiracy, pulling in the Freemasons and, unfortunately, adding some really ugly anti-Semitic stuff, blaming this huge network of Illuminati, Masons, and Jewish bankers for everything. And with that, the myth was officially off to the races.
And the craziest part is how the villain just keeps changing to fit the times. For over 100 years, it was kind of a fringe theory. Then, boom, the Cold War hits America, and the John Birch Society dusts it off. Suddenly, communism is the big enemy, and guess who's behind it? Yep, the Illuminati. But the version we know today, the one with pop stars and all that, you're not going to believe where that came from. It started as a joke.
Okay, this is honestly my favorite part of the whole story. The modern Illuminati myth, the one you see all over the internet, it wasn't uncovered from some ancient secret scroll. It was literally born in the pages of Playboy magazine as a prank.
So in the 60s, you've got these 2 writers, Robert Anton Wilson and Carrie Thornley. They decide they want to fight conformity by just injecting chaos and misinformation into the culture. They called it Operation Mindfuck. So they start sending fake letters to Playboy from people claiming the Illuminati are real. Then they'd send more fake letters arguing against the first ones, creating this totally fake, confusing debate. Then Wilson co-writes this wild, satirical sci-fi trilogy about it all. The whole point was to get people to question reality. The problem? People started believing the joke was real.
Wilson himself couldn't believe it. He wrote the book as a parody, a satire about paranoia itself, but people read it like it was a history textbook. His joke accidentally became the new gospel for conspiracy theorists, and the Illuminati myth got a massive upgrade for the internet age.
Okay, so if the real Illuminati have been gone for centuries, and the modern version literally started as a joke, why is this myth more powerful now than ever before? Well, the answer has a lot to do with symbols we see every single day, and a very human need for things to make sense. Let's just tackle the big one head-on. Exhibit A, for most believers, the back of the US $1 bill. That pyramid, that all-seeing eye, that's got to be their symbol, right? That's the proof.
Yeah, not even a little bit. First off, that Eye of Providence, that was a super common religious symbol for God watching over humanity for centuries before Adam Weishaupt was even born. And that Latin phrase, Novus Ordo Seclorum, it doesn't mean New World Order like some evil globalist plot. The real translation is a new order of the ages, and it was all about celebrating the beginning of the American era. These symbols have absolutely nothing to do with some defunct secret society from Bavaria. Zero.
And this is really how the myth just keeps feeding itself today, right? Pop culture is dripping with so-called Illuminati signs and symbols. The internet is just this giant echo chamber where these theories can go viral in a heartbeat. And then you have real secret groups, like the Bilderberg meetings, that give just enough of a hint of truth to make the whole fantasy feel plausible.
When you boil it all down, the Illuminati myth sticks around because it tells a simple story in a world that feels incredibly complicated and, frankly, pretty scary. It's this grand narrative that connects all the dots, explains away the chaos. We take a real historical group, we take some real symbols, we see real secretive elites, and we weave it all into a story that helps it all make sense.
And that's really the question I want to leave you with. What's actually easier to believe? That the world is chaotic, random, and unpredictable? Or that someone, somewhere, is secretly in control? The idea of a hidden cabal might be terrifying, but for a lot of people, maybe it's more comforting than the alternative. That no one's driving the car at all, and the world is just as messy as it looks. Thanks for joining me.